Welcome to Season 4 of She Lancer, Mom Entrepreneur with VoiceOver Angela. I'm your host, Angela. I'm a full-time voiceover artist and audiobook narrator, and this podcast are the audio versions of my live Q&A chats on YouTube. If you'd like to be part of the live Q&A chats, come on over to my YouTube channel, VoiceOver Angela. I'm live every Tuesday at 12 p.m. EST. We talk about voiceover, the business of voiceover, audiobooks, and so much more. Find more information on my website, voiceoverangela.com. Enjoy today's episode. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, wherever you are. Thank you for joining me again for another live Q&A community chat here on my channel. I know it's Wednesday. I usually come on Tuesdays, but I was out of town yesterday, so I apologize for that. But if you're new here, welcome to my channel. I appreciate you being here. My channel is dedicated to those of you just getting started out in this wonderful world of voiceover and audiobook narration. And through my channel, I share with you tips, tricks, techniques, things that I do every day in my own voiceover business. And then we get together in these weekly chats, typically on Tuesday, to talk about a topic or two. If you're not new here, then you know that every week we have a new poll, right? Did I introduce myself? I don't think I did. Did I go squirrel? I'm Angela. I'm a full-time voiceover artist and audiobook narrator. Anywho, let's just get to the poll. Anyway, so the poll or the topic today comes from a lot of questions lately regarding demos and samples, like how long should they be? How do you make them? I didn't know I could make them. Should I spend $3,000 for this training course and then get a demo at the end? Is that going to be good enough? So on and so forth. So we're going to be talking about nothing but, hopefully, demos and samples today. So if you have a specific question regarding demos and samples, then please post it in the comments and then we will get to them. But first, the poll. So of course, the poll today, because I wanted to kind of get a pulse on where everybody was, do you make your own DIY demos and samples, or do you have them professionally made? Now, the answer to this question, of course, is going to be largely based on where you're at in your journey. Meaning how far you are along in this journey. You could be just starting and maybe didn't know that you could make your own, or you could be years in and have several professionally made demos. So I realize that. But my channel focuses mainly on those just getting started, right? And those of you that have been in this for a few years, then if you could also share your insights and information with everybody else, that's greatly appreciated. And that's one of the things I love most about these live Q&A chats is that we get to share. We get to all hold hands and share. So far, it looks like 92% of you said that you DIY your own demos and samples, and we'll get into why you should here in a moment. 4% of you said, I have them professionally made. Totally cool. And then another 4% of you said, I didn't know I could make my own. So that's awesome. So then we'll talk about all of these things as we go along. So let's take this off the screen. Let's get over to the comments. First, before we get to the comments, I wanted to tell those of you that didn't know you could make your own DIY demos and samples. If you've been watching me for any length of time, then you know that I recommend that you do this in the very beginning. Because as you know, everything is freshy fresh, brand new. You don't know the lingo. You're probably not quite familiar with your DAW just yet, meaning your digital audio workstation, which is your recording software. You may not know how all of the effects work, how they work in harmony. Mic placement, you're still working on your studio treatment, you're still working on a lot of things. So if you are in that stage and you haven't quite got your sound dialed in, I hate the word perfect. because that's just, misleading, right? It's not something you should be shooting for perfect, because there really is no such thing as perfect. There's too many definitions of perfect. But if you haven't got your studio or your sound quite dialed in yet, and then you go and have a professionally made demo, and of course, this person is going to coach you through the reading. Which is a great thing. You probably learn a whole lot through that process. But then they're going to take your audio and then put their audio engineer voodoo on it, and it's going to sound amazing, audio quality wise. And then they give it to you, and then you give it to a client, and you can't reproduce that sound on your own. You can see where that could be a problem, because you're telling the client, hey, I sound like this, but then when they hire you and then the actual, delivery of the audio doesn't sound anything like your demo, it could be a problem. So I recommend making your own until you get the training done, until you get the learning done, until you're more comfortable with everything in your studio and what you can do, what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are. Get the training first. And then once you can comfortably reproduce the sound that an audio engineer can do for you, then perhaps or have a professional demo made. That's my take. Take it or leave it. You don't have to like it. You don't have to do it. And of course, do what you want to do. But that's my recommendation. And I know there are quite a few other people that would agree, just in the beginning, just to get started. That way, what you're producing is an accurate representation of what you can do. You don't want to lie to clients, right? I don't want to get off too much on a tangent, but anyway. But how to make a demo and a sample, what the difference is between the two. Basically, a sample is a little snippet of something that you have recorded. Think maybe a piece of an audiobook that you've recorded, or an audition that you've done, or something like that. Just a snippet, a small little snippet would be a sample. A demo is more or less a demo reel. It's also referred to as a demo reel. It's a compilation of samples. It could be a demo reel that is got a little bit of everything in it, everything that you offer, everything within your range within it. Could be, a broad range of things. Or you could also make, and I recommend having several different types of demos, but other demos could be just audiobook specific. You could have a audiobook demo. You could even break that down further and have a audiobook demo that's all self-help. You could have an audiobook demo that's all children's books. You can have an audiobook demo that's all romance or whatever else that you offer. You could also have a commercial demo, which is all just commercial work. You can even break that down further and have, commercial work that is all just one tone or another. You could also have a demo that was e-learning, another demo that is IVR. And IVR stands for Interactive Voice Response, which is really just a fancy way of saying phone trees, phone messages. So you could have lots of different types of demos for lots of different types of purposes, and you're probably going to be making a lot of demos, because as we go along, we just get better and better as we go, and we're going to refresh them, every month, every couple months, what have you. So don't be afraid to do these things. Don't be afraid to make your own samples and your own demos. I think at this point, 6.5 years in, I have still yet to have someone make a professional demo for me. All my demos are self-made. Anywho, so really that is just the difference between the two. Let's go over to the comments. Let's see who's first in. Caesar. Hi, Caesar. Oh, hi, Angela. Funny thing, in my journey towards doing VO, I discovered sound engineering, so I make my own demos. That way, what the client hears is exactly the kind of output I can deliver. And that's essentially what I've been saying. We don't want to be misleading to our clients. That said, hello, everyone. My audiobook, The Veiled Air, is finally out. Waiting on author for codes. Nice. I'll be distributing what I have later today, hopefully. That's awesome. That's super exciting, Caesar. So proud of you. Sean Lester is here. Hey, Sean. I was a radio guy back in the days of 8-track tape. And so learned to make my own demo air check tapes. I still make my own. They seem to work. Yeah, I mean, those of you that have a little bit of experience on that end of things are probably going to have a leg up in that respect over the majority of us. Like I came from, I'm an automotive guy, 20 years in the automotive business. And then before that, construction and a lot of other things. So nothing to do with audio at all. So there's a lot more of a learning curve for me. But for you guys that have a little bit of experience in that field, you have a little bit of a leg up, probably have a more attuned ear, so to speak. Paul says, good afternoon, morning, evening, etc. From the UK. My demos are all DIY. I'm confident in the engineering side, having been an audio engineer for over 50 years. See, again, you have a leg up. And then also, for those of you just getting started, there is something, you can hire an audio engineer to do what we call a booth audit for you. They, once you set up a session with them, they will ask you for a raw recording of your space, and then they will meet with you, typically via Zoom, and they will adjust your space or make recommendations on what you could do with your space, how to position your mic, perhaps, put something behind you to reduce reverb, so on and so forth. They could also show you shortcuts, help you to build effects racks, to make you sound or to help you sound the best that you can with what your current setup is, or make recommendations to improve the setup. The audio engineers that I recommend for that, I personally used Tim Tippett's. You can find him pretty much everywhere as VO Tech Guru. He's here on YouTube, and he's got a website, which I believe is VO Tech Guru. Awesome. Highly recommend. And there's also Lenny B, which you can probably easily find as Lenny B. And there's also Roy Yokelson, who goes by Uncle Roy. If you're in my Facebook group, then he's also a member of our Facebook group there. So you can find one of those three gentlemen, all very talented, all well worth the time, energy, and investment. Paul then says, I also have experience in directing others. However, I'm painfully aware that it's impossible to properly critique one's own output. Yes. So I'm always keen to get critical feedback, and he offers. Getting feedback from peers is going to be very important, because you may grow accustomed to what your space, your voice, your output sounds like, and you might not catch something that could be off-putting to a client, right? So you might have a little bit of reverb that you just got used to hearing and don't really recognize it. You don't hear it. Or maybe your mic placement is way too far away. Maybe the microphone is completely turned the wrong way and you didn't realize it. But getting feedback from your peers, at the very least, by joining Facebook groups that allow you to share demos for feedback, workshops, masterminds, those kinds of things, well worth it. Not only for the community aspect and the support in them, but also to get the feedback and to make sure that you are on the right track for making sure that not only your performance is getting better, is improving as you go, but also the sound of your space is improving. My Facebook group, the VO Workshop, I allow that. I allow you to upload demos, samples, to get feedback from the group. We also do that in my Platinum group too. On a little bit of a deeper dive, we do that. But that is also something very important to do. Join groups. Join the collectives. Paul then says, Caesar, I just found your book on Audible, but disappointed to hear that the sample is all the co-narrator. Yeah, are they still doing that on Audible? Where they're just playing the opening credits and whatever's the first 5 minutes regardless? That's irritating. Caesar says to Paul, yep, it's mostly her book. I'm the love interest, so I'm not part of the sample or 15-minute checkpoint. That's unfortunate. That really stinks, because I think your voice would really be a good selling point for that book. Just saying. Paul says, guess I'll have to buy it then. Yes, you absolutely should. Sean says, Paul, I'm in. Trade samples? There you go. There you go. My morning cup of tea says, howdy, y'all. Good morning to you. Brian Mitchell, where you been? Haven't seen you in a while. Howdy, y'all. I thought these were on Tuesday. Yes, typically they are. However, I was out of town for some much needed air yesterday, so I switched it from yesterday to today. They will go back to Tuesday every once in a while. You know, a little self-care doesn't hurt. I'm glad to notice this today. I DIY. I figure I can't afford anyone else, and it's what you'll get anyway. Yeah. I forget how long are ACX samples supposed to be, ideally. 2 to 3 minutes. I'd say 3 minutes max. I mean, really, about 2 minutes, but 2 to 3 minutes. Because, again, audiobooks are a little bit different than commercial work or anything else like that. The shorter form type of things. Audiobooks are long form. Everything else is sort of shorter form. And long form, there's usually more involved. There's going to be lots of different shifts in emotion. There's going to be different character voices, things like that. So there's a little bit more to audiobooks. So therefore, the samples are going to be a little bit on the longer side. But 2 to 3 minutes max, I would say. I mean, the listener is going to know within the first few seconds if you're what they're looking for, right? And to keep listening. Paul says, I think I remember seeing ACX say not more than 5 minutes. I think 5 minutes is even way too long. But, I mean, if you have something that's 5 minutes and don't want to cut it down, then, just post it. But really, 2 to 3 minutes. And that goes for auditions, too. Auditions don't have to be any longer than 2 to 3 minutes. Yeah, you're lucky if people listen to that much. Tess says, wow, I actually made it. Glad to be here. I plan to DIY my audiobook demos, and you should. And you should. Typically with audiobook demos, either when you're narrating or editing and you hear something that's just like fire, like I nailed that, take note of where that is, right? So chapter 5, 10 minutes in, from 10 minutes to 12 minutes, whatever it is. Note it, write it down. Or just use the retail sample, because that is the section that is typically going to hook people in anyway, whatever you've chosen or used for the retail sample. Just use a piece of that. I mean, it's already cut. It's already there. It's already, 5 minutes or less. So just use that. Work smarter. Alex says, I can't wait until I can afford to have my demos professionally done. Until then, I just have to do the best I can with great advice from good folks like you. Well, I appreciate that. But again, I'm not saying that I'm anything super special, but 6.5 years in, I still have not had anybody make a demo for me. I've always made my own. So that's not a bad thing. Plus, you learn a lot in making your own demos and samples. You come to learn, what catches people's attention or what to look for. And then also the editing, the mixing process. Explore your DAW, explore your recording software, play with it. It's a lot of fun once you learn how to use it. And you should. You should learn how or what it can do and how to do that. Faux show. It's Jake25 says, morning, you guys. Good morning to you, Jake. Thanks for being here. Dylan says, hi all, I'm poor, so I make my own. Eventually, I would love to have a commercial demo professionally done, but until then, I'll just DIY it. Yeah, I think really, I want to say depending on what aspect of voiceover that you're going to focus on, like what your main goal in voiceover is. For example, if your dream is to be in video games, if your dream is to be a video game voiceover artist, then that is probably the demo that you want to have professionally made, right? By someone who knows what casting directors are looking for, right? So perhaps that's a good way to look at it, but everything else you could probably DIY. And then at some point have them professionally made if you wanted to. I think that's the way I'd look at that. Kristen's here. Good morning, Kristen. Good morning to you. Joel is here. Good morning, Joel. Kristen says, also DIY with lots of help from Caesar. Yeah, Caesar's really good with these. Caesar says to Dylan, when you're ready, I know a guy. Caesar's the guy. Tycon Delar says, Jean, I'm struggling with adding music. It's always too loud or just bad musical choice. Do you have videos on how to create them with music? If you're asking me, I want to say I have a couple of videos that that I use multi-track in Adobe Audition, adding music. I want to say it's more for meditation, but same rules apply. Getting the right volumes down is just something that comes with an ear and practice. So, as you're learning and growing and learning all of these new cool things that you can do with your audio software, don't let one little thing that you don't know yet hold you back from giving it a try. You're like, I can't get this right. Negative. Don't do that to yourself. Figure it out. Play with it. Try different things. Reach out for help. Like, we have a lot of people here in the chat that are, very technically inclined and experienced with these kinds of things. Ask questions. Try new things. You will figure it out. So just keep at it. Joel says, hi, everyone. I do my own samples, but haven't done a demo yet. Well, there you go. You have samples. Just put them all together now. Just, open up all of your samples, then open up a new blank file, and then just copy one sample, paste it in, then go and grab another sample, copy that, and then paste it in right behind the other one. I mean, takes just a couple minutes once you have the samples you want to use selected. Donnie's here. Hey, Donnie. To Dylan says, I am in the same boat. Current is DIY, but end goal is definitely a professional one. DIY is a great place to start, but still get feedback on them as it will only help. Yes, absolutely. And again, those demos are going to be refreshed. You're going to replace them. At least once a month, maybe a couple months. So, and usually the first demo is not going to be the best anyway. I know my first demos definitely were not, but you will replace them. They're not going to be, representative of your quality forever. We get better as we go. Coolest Reviews says hello. Hello to you. Dwight says, hello to my fellow Angelistas and our VO queen. Drum roll, please. The great Angela Ilfist, and the crowd goes wild. You're so sweet, Dwight. Thank you so much. Tess says, by the way, Caesar, congrats on the release. Yay. Yes, well said, Tess. Absolutely. Eric Grimes. How you doing, Eric? Hi, Angela. I did the big money course with professional demos. I learned a lot. But though I like the demos, I can't reproduce that. I have since done my own, some with background sound that I love. Well, there you go. And you probably learned a whole lot more using the knowledge that you did learn from the course. Now you can apply that and then learn more advanced techniques, right? Kind of compound that knowledge, build on it. So it's not a bad thing. I always try to look at everything through a positive lens. It's awesome, though, Eric. Caesar says to Tess, thank you. Kind of excited to do more books now. You should be. Donnie says, I am still a long ways off from a professional demo. I like where my studio is, but I just an acting coach. So, yeah, I'm still building, even though we know that never stops. Jake wants to know about effects racks. I've only really done EQ curves and some denoise, but I don't understand gates and the need for compression. Love being part of these. Well, we love to have you here. Just to make it as easy as possible, noise gates will cut off any frequency at whatever threshold you set it at. I don't like noise gates because they end up sounding very unnatural. Because It's sort of like if you've heard me talk about using silence in audiobooks, you don't ever want to use silence because you can hear the ambient sound in the room. And then as soon as you insert silence, it's just like, behind your voice. You can pick that up. It's the same thing with noise gates, but not only that, but you can almost hear the gates opening and closing, and it really adds this odd, unnatural sound to your voice. So I don't like noise gates for that reason. I don't recommend them. I always say to focus on your space. Find the root cause of the noise and reduce or remove that instead of adding effects to it. Because the more effects you add on to your audio, they're all destructive. Even if they're meant to make you sound better, they're all destructive to the natural raw audio. So the more you're applying, the more you're actually doing damage. And then especially with noise reducers, because they'll make you sound tinny. They'll take all of those deep, delicious frequencies out of your voice. They'll take all of that stuff out and make you sound very tinny and hollow. So I don't like noise gates. Just figure out what's causing the noise and remove that instead of adding effects. Compression is, just to make it simple, we'll take your high peaks and your low peaks and kind of compress them and even them out so they're a little bit more even, which definitely helps with RMS if you're doing audiobooks. So compression, but ultimately, Jake, just play with everything and then you can see what it does. You can see the end result. What I say to do is to open up your DAW, recite a nursery rhyme or something simple, so you have a test audio sample, and then just play with all the different effects and then see what it does to that sample. And once you figure it out, then undo what you did, make a note if you have to. Okay, well, I added this and I set it at this rate and this, this setting, and I really liked it. And then try something else. Try a different effect and see what it does. It's okay to get in there and just apply these things and just see what they do, see what the end results do, how they work together. Why not? It's fun. Caesar says, it's Jake. Gates clamp down on your room tone when you aren't speaking. Would recommend an expander in lieu of a gate as they sound more natural. Compression reduces the dynamic range of your audio. Yep. Yes, Caesar. Thank you, Caesar. Dylan says, Caesar, you released and didn't tell me? That's rude. Who does he think he is? Caesar says to Jake, basically it makes the loudest parts quieter and the quieter parts louder. So it evens everything out. Dwight says, congrats, Caesar. That is awesome. Don't sit on your laurels. No laurel sitting. Go and audition more so we can enjoy the dulcet tones all the time. What was it that you put on your website, Caesar? Sexy words? Sexy words just come out. Yes. It's Jake says to Caesar, like the loudness normalization effect. Sort of. Normalization, it's in the same kind of family, but not quite the same thing. Caesar says to Dylan, I apologize. Going forward, I'll give you a heads up. Coolest Review says, I just made a tent out of blankets, takes care of all reverb. See, again, it doesn't have to be pretty. It doesn't have to be pretty. It just has to sound good. It doesn't matter how you make it, how you treat your space. Just make sure that it sounds good. It doesn't have to be pretty. My Cup of Tea says, where would be a good start to learn more about audio engineering? A silly question, perhaps, but I'm interested in learning those skills for myself. I would say if you're really interested in learning about audio production and audio engineering, get some coaching training from an audio engineer. Find yourself a mentor who can teach you these things. The best way to learn is from a teacher or someone who is willing and able and that you jive with to learn from. There's tons of free information on YouTube, but that only gets you so far because it's speaking in generalities. Everything's sort of general, right? This is what you do. This is how you do it. But to get more specific to you and your space, your particular sound, the shape of your room, the sound of your voice, the microphone you're working with, so on and so forth, you need to get someone who can work with you one-on-one to really dial in based on your situation. Caesar says to Dwight, "Thanks, Dwight. That is totally the plan. Haven't been this confident in my ability since the spaghetti incident of 2010. Dare I ask? So I'm totally looking forward to doing more auditions. You should be." Dwight says, "I like the course that teach you how to do your own, and when you're done with the course, you have what you need and the knowledge to do it over and over." Caesar says to Jake, "Loudness normalization doesn't exactly compress or limit your audio. It ensures that your audio podcast is adjusted to a specific loudness level while preserving relative loudness." Dwight says, "Mike Hathcote does what is called a hybrid voiceover demo. You do the work, he gives you homework and knowledge to get it done. It costs about as much as a pro demo, but you more for your money? More bang for your buck, maybe?" Dylan says, "Last I knew on mobile, Audible disregards the retail sample and reads the first 5 minutes." Why did they do that? We spend so much time trying to figure out what the best sample to choose, and maybe even the author has exactly the right piece that they would like to use to hook people in to buy that audiobook. Why would they take that away? Because you think the retail sample that was intentionally put there to get someone to buy that audiobook, that would why would they do that? It just seems counterproductive. Makes no sense. Ignore the word podcast. Not sure how it got there. Donnie says, "And apparently I'm Captain Typo today." It's okay. We all fat fingers sometimes. It's okay. It's all right. Jake says to Caesar, "I understand the spaghetti incident of 2010 can make podcasts appear randomly. Proud to meet another survivor, and thanks for the advice." Caesar says to Donnie, "Blame it on the auto corrosion." Autocorrect. I hate my autocorrect. It always autocorrects to the wrong thing. Caesar says to Jake, "It was a dark day in history. Spaghetti everywhere." I think we've all had one of those. Caesar, don't feel bad. We've all had one of those incidents. Very humbling. Dylan says, "My dream is to be the random VO guy hawking everything from trash bags to minivans. That's why I want a pro commercial demo to send to agents." You know what? Let's check over with the poll really quick. I'm going to leave Dylan's question on the screen so I don't forget where I left off, because that just wastes so much time. But if you are just joining us and you haven't voted yet, we are talking today about DIY demos and samples for audiobooks, voiceover, as opposed to paying someone else to do it professionally. And no, I'm gonna pump the brakes on that tangent right now. So 47 votes so far. 87% of you said you do DIY them, and 4% of you said I have them professionally made. 9% of you said I didn't know I can make my own. So these are the people that I was hoping to reach today. Yes, you can, and you should. And again, because if you're just starting out and you're unfamiliar with how everything works and you're not quite at a place, even performance-wise, where you are fully tapping into what you're capable of yet, and you pay someone to coach you through a performance and then they do their audio engineering voodoo on it, and then you can't replicate what they've done for you on your end, and you're giving a client this fresh, shiny, sparkly demo, but you can't recreate that sound, performance, audio quality on your own, that's a problem. I'm not saying don't ever get a professional demo. Absolutely do it. But in the beginning, as you're learning, as you're growing, as you're becoming the butterfly in the VO industry, do your own, because that is more representative of what your actual output is going to sound like. You want to make sure that we're not telling the client that we're going to get a Mercedes when really at this time we're kind of more like Volkswagen. Not to make fun of either one of those makes, but if you get what I'm picking up, like, here's some steak, but then you give them hamburger, right? Picking up what I'm putting down. Brian says, it might be fun to get a professional demo done because I'd be curious to see what someone else can create and think I'd be awesome at it. It'd be like a makeover show on TV. I have to agree with you on that one, Brian. I think it would be interesting to see what someone else would do with my voice. And a lot of times they add, they not only make the audio quality the best that it can be, but they'll also add music and sound effects and things. So, it would be interesting to see what that would sound like. I'm with you on that one. But I don't know if just the what if or just for giggles would be worth all the money invested into having a professional demo made. Tall Latin Mama says, good afternoon. I'm late, so I brought Fireball donuts and coffee. Definitely not spiked. You should put a winky face in there. Definitely not spiked. But I'll take them. I love my donuts and my coffee. I'll take them, spiked or not. Caesar says to Ty Condolar, regarding music beds, it comes down to automation and sidechain. You got to stop with the big words that people are unfamiliar with, Caesar, because they're just going to go, I have no idea what you're talking about. Remember how it was in the beginning when we were just like everything was sort of on a level of cat, dog? We're just learning these things. You can't just start throwing out sidechain and stuff like that. They're not going to know what you mean. Caesar. And adding right glue compression in the mix bus. See, now you're just being difficult. Or some DAWs can automatically duck the music for you. Audition can. It can, but if you don't know what ducking is, or how to duck, or how to enable duck, they're not going to know what you mean, Caesar. Caesar says, also with music, it's important to get the balance right on different playback systems. For example, your phone, headphones, speakers, tablets, car stereos, etc. C. I typically leave everything in mono for just that reason. That way it doesn't, that sort of helps everything sort of sound uniform. Is that the word I'm looking for? But as far as the balance between the voiceover and the music, that is definitely something that takes a little bit of practice. If that is something that you're doing on your own, it's just going to take a little bit of trial and error, playing with things. Again, go in there and play. I mean, even as adults, we have to go play. Don't ever hold yourself back from playing. Go play. Have a good time. Go play with your dog. Play with all the little things that it does, all the little bells and whistles and switches and things. It's how you're going to learn. It's how you're going to learn how to play with it. Tall Latin Mama says, I'm not opposed to learning from the pros as I have no idea how to properly dial everything in, but I fear I'll get lazy and depend on the pros. But I want all the feedback to improve my craft. Don't allow yourself to be lazy. Don't allow yourself to be. I know that's easier said than done for a lot of us, but don't allow yourself to get lazy. And maybe that's another reason why you should do it on your own and not have a professional do it. No, I don't want to say that, because I think at some point we should have a professional demo made, especially if you're looking to get into, dare I say, the big leagues, of whatever it is whatever vein of voiceover that you're looking to get into. You should have a professional demo made at some point. But in the beginning, make your own. learn all you can about the process, that might keep you from getting lazy because you have the know-how, because you have made the majority of them. So you have the know-how and the skill set to make them on your own. So you won't just sit back and go, okay, well, there's nothing I can do about it anyway, so I'll just let so-and-so do it, and then I won't have to worry about it. So if you're doing your own, then you yourself can get in there and make some changes and updates and things on your own, so you won't be lazy. Because then you'll have no one to blame but yourself. Yes. I saw we have a super chat. Hold on. Sean Lester, thank you so much, darling. How often do you update your demos and do a booth audit? My booth hasn't changed. The setup has been completely the same for years. So I have not had another booth audit since my initial booth audit because nothing's changed. But I would say anytime you have anything change, you get a new microphone, you've maybe perhaps moved into a new space, these would be times for a booth audit. Anytime anything changes in your booth, that would be time for a booth audit. Demos, I would say in the beginning, I probably updated my demos once a month, maybe more often than that, because it seems like you almost, the more and more that you do this and you get in there, like I said earlier, play, learn new things, figure out what everything does, the better you're going to get at it, the better you're going to sound, the better your demos are going to sound. So in the beginning, you might even be at the point where you're refreshing your demos every week, every other day. I think that's pretty typical. And then as you're at a point where you're comfortable with your performance, I mean, never stop learning. I'm never going to say don't, just be complacent, and just be, but you should be updating your demos, I would say at the very most, maybe every couple months, every 6 months, you should be refreshing things at the most. But if you want to, update them daily if you want to. And why not? Okay, where did I leave off? Oh, I think. Here we go. Tycon Delar says, I see sellers who offer demo creation on Fiverr. The price is average around $200. Do you know of anyone who has used one of these sellers? No. I would say just make your own. Make your own. There's so much you can learn. There's so much value in doing something on your own because you will learn instead of relying on someone else and then paying them for their skill sets. Learn to do it yourself. There's so much value in learning it yourself. Even if you don't take those skills, those newfound skills, and apply them into doing something, you at least have them. Then you can use them with something else later, right? If you get pretty good with understanding what all the different effects do and how to apply them, the harmony they work together, in which they work together, you can take that skill set and you may not use it on your own audio, but then you could take those skills and maybe apply them to someone else's audio and then edit podcasts. You could edit YouTube videos. You could do other things with the skills that you learn. So there's no such thing as, superfluous skills, right? You can always use the knowledge that you acquire by doing things yourself, learning to do it yourself, becoming self-sufficient. Do that. Learn it. Learn it. Take the time to learn it. And it's don't be hard on yourself if you can't learn something overnight. No one expects you to. That is not the way to be thinking about it. It's going to take the time that it's going to take until you learn that skill set, but it's going to be so worth it to have that skill than just to shell out $200 and use somebody else's skill that you could have learned yourself. And then you could be making that $200 from someone else, right? I mean, there's nothing wrong with learning new skills. Ewell Acres says, I try to do them myself as it shows what my current quality level is, can produce, and what my final product to customer. And I think that's a good thing. I think we should be transparent with our clients, because if you're selling a service like this, you don't want to, blind them with something that isn't real just so they hire you. And then you don't want to start out with a bad name by doing that. You want to be transparent and real. And just knowing in the back of your head that you're going to get better. You're going to get better. The more you do it and the longer you stick with it and the more time you invest in it and learning it and doing it, you're going to get better. So why not just give them what is the current real representation of what you can deliver now? Right? Because it's not like that demo is going to be attached to your profile forever. You're going to delete the old one and then put in a new one that sounds even better in a month anyway, right? So just do your own. If my demos are not up to scratch, then that encourages me to learn better editing. I personally, exactly. There's nothing wrong with learning. A cup of tea says thank you. Coolest review says, hey, my tent is pretty. I take aesthetics seriously. I use nice blackest. I want to feel and look good while I do voice work. Clean and organized makes your voice sound better. I mean, mindset is everything. And if your recording space is appealing to you, I mean, look at mine. It looks like my teenage dream with all the lights and stuff. But it makes me happy. It fulfills something in me. It makes me happy. So my mindset, therefore, is happy. I'm fulfilled in my little space. So personalize it. Be happy with it. I'm with you. Steven Sound says, a publishing company I work with just adds the retail sample right after the opening credits. Wow. Peak Parable says, I produce my own demos, partially for financial reasons, partially for it shows what my current available work skill is. Work skill is. It allows me to improve in skill of what my final product delivery will be. Yeah, that's awesome. Coolest review says, I also do projects I don't get paid for, so I can stay sharp and ready for more VO. Peak Parable says, to get a better demo just encourages me to improve my own skill in using my game and end product, equipment, technique, editing skill. Steven Sound says, I've been doing VO for a while and have recently started making a decent amount of money from audiobooks. I've yet to make an actual demo, though I make lots of samples for my audiobooks. Well, there you go. Just take all of those different samples and compile them into audiobook demos. I don't know if you were here earlier when I was talking about it, but you could have a general audiobook demo reel that's got a little bit of everything in it, all the different genres and tones and things. And then you can do another demo that's just children's books. And then you could do another audiobook demo that's just sci-fi. And then another one that's just self-help, so on and so forth. Have some options. Have variety. But use what you already have to make demos from. The stupendous Chumley says, does anyone in the group have an interest in building DIY equipment, mics and preamps like me? Currently working on a vintage U87i knockoff. Where's Caesar? I'm sure Caesar's all over that comment. Peak Parable says, aside from your wonderfully helpful content, you have other location recommendations for technique improvement on voiceover. If we're talking about other creators, perhaps on social media, Anthony Pica, Gabrielle Nistico, Bill DeWeese, Mike Delgadio, who goes by Booth Junkie. I'm sure there are others that are just not coming to mind, but there are a handful of really good people that share information on YouTube and other platforms for free that are well worth the follow and subscribe. Dylan says, sidechain is what keeps my wallet attached to my pants, right? Exactly. Caesar says, Dwight says to Caesar, show off. Yeah, see? He's just trying to do his linguistic voodoo on us. Noisiest water bottle ever. Steven Sound says to Chumley, you might be interested in looking up info about Hula Cow's process making the Luau 87 and Lay 87. Caesar says to Dwight, I apologize, but do you? Coolest Review says picking the right music is crucial. Let's face it, some music is too busy to be a backdrop, and you're not wrong. I think the music you choose is going to be highly dependent on the intended tone of whatever it is that you're adding music to. I think most of the time when I'm adding music to something, most of the time it's either an on-hold track for IVR. You know, while someone's on hold, they have the music and the usually promotional stuff that you hear while you're on hold. That's when I add music. And you don't want that music to be too busy or distracting. You want it just to be kind of really ambient, not really, you know, a whole lot, not too busy, like Coolest Review says. Meditation is the same way because you're wanting the person to kind of focus out. But if you're working more on a commercial that's really high energy, then you're probably going to want something that's a little bit high energy, right? To keep that feeling and that emotion going, because that is what the intended emotion is. So it's really going to be dependent on what you're adding the music to, what the tone or emotion of that is, or intent of that is. Dwight says, don't apologize. We're just jealous. Make that very jealous. Love you, little brother. Just Caesar, yeah, flexing his word lingo. Voiceover Van Deen says, this stupendous Chumley. Are you familiar with the group.com, groupdiy.com? Lots of folks over there in the DIY and modding scene. Interesting. I'm sure Caesar's there now. Tall Latin Mama says, I live for your mom looks and proverbial hand slaps. Thank you for keeping it real and keeping me challenged. Gosh, I love this group. Aw. Well, you can always count on me for the mom looks. The stupendous Chumley says to Steven Sounds, the Lay 87 is the very one I'm working on, with all 3 switches, too. Donnie says there is so much to do in the beginning. There will not be a time where there is nothing to do. This is a business, after all, and the more you put in, the more you will get out. Perfectly said, Donnie. Caesar says, oh wow, we do have some DIY folks here. I think my next preamp will likely be a DIY kit, like a hairball Lola. That thing sounds absolutely divine. I don't know if I've ever heard those words used so closely before, hairball and divine. I'm just saying. Steven Sound says, Chumley, well, hey, that's a funny coincidence. Duffy is very open to talking if you have any questions. Dwight says, weekly challenge I saw on TikTok. For learning, do one thing a week, looking for a mic, then research for a week, and then at the end, you have your info and education on mics. Do this every week. Yes, and you never stop learning. Never stop learning. Joy says, hello, Angela and company. I don't think you want my donuts right now. Why? I'm taking notes on the cool things I can learn as I improve my DIY demo skills. What's wrong with the... Why no donuts? The stupendous Chumley says, I just got 7th Circle Audio's J99, a Jensen twin servo replica. Need to assemble that. Is it like a Lego kit? They say it's clean and sounds 3-dimensional. All right. Let's not get into like super techie stuff because you're going to lose all of us. You're going to lose all of us. Caesar says, oh, hi, Joy. How are you feeling? Have you had the chance to go over my feedback on your files? Cindy Schramm says, hi, Angela. Hello, Cindy. Quick question. When narrating an audiobook, is it acceptable to add cue words to make it easier for the listener to understand? Adding I thought to indicate italicized text. No. Read what is there. Read what the author has written. Do not add or take away unless the author has paid you to proof, edit, whatever, to change the text on the manuscript before you record it. Otherwise, read what is there. Do not add or subtract or change. Read the words the author has written. If it's italicized and it's meant to sound like it's in their mind, change your tone to make it sound like it's maybe in their head, right? That is your job as the audiobook narrator. is to give that impression. You cannot add or subtract words unless the author is paying you to do that and they acknowledge that you're going to do that to their manuscript. Dwight says, weekly challenge, make one demo on one topic or category. Like this week, make an educator demo. Next week, make a romance demo. Wash, rinse, repeat until you have a series of demos instead of samples. I like the weekly challenge idea. Donnie says, smash don't pass on the like button and subscribe. It helps our Queen Angela and the algorithm dragons. Thank you for that, Donnie. Gingerly tap the like button. And please, yes, consider subscribing. It really does help out my channel with the algorithm dragons. I'm not sure. I would be interested to see what those look like, algorithm dragons. My cup of tea says, I might try that, Dwight. It'll keep me consistent with VO practice and work. Yeah, I like the idea of the weekly challenge. I think that's a good idea. Caesar says, Angela, it's actually very much like a Lego kit. I figured. You have a box with slots and you add things like preamps, compressors, and EQ modules. It's like a plugins in real life kind of thing. That sounds like a hoot. I have, no, I'm not going to go into that, but I've done lots of like little assembly kind of kit sort of things, and I like them, but I've got like these super long like pianist fingers that sometimes can't get into places that don't bend when you need them to bend. So little tiny things are a little bit difficult, but I like that when you can put stuff together. It sounds like a nerdy rock band. It does. That's funny. Algorithm dragons. Joy West says to hi Caesar, how are you doing? I felt like I coughed my lungs up a few times, otherwise I'm hanging in there. Yeah, there's still a lot of crud going around. So if you're starting to feel under the weather, especially with fall, winter, take care of yourself. Have extra vitamin C, a little echinacea, zinc. Make sure you're taking your multivitamin. Take care of yourselves. Protect your moneymaker, right? But I think that is going to wrap us up for today. I will be back next Tuesday. And again, sorry I wasn't here yesterday. I had to get out of the city. So I wasn't here yesterday, but I will be back Tuesday next week. If there's something specific that you guys want to talk about, then please put that in the comments down below, and perhaps it'll be a topic for a future get-together live chat. But I appreciate y'all spending some time with me today, and I'll see y'all next week. Bye. Thank you for listening to She Lancer Mom Entrepreneur with VoiceOver Angela. That's me. For more information about me, visit my website, voiceoverangela.com, or hop on over to my YouTube channel, VoiceOver Angela. Again, thanks for listening. Have a great day.